I want to talk about my hero and my villain of the week, given that this is now Thursday. Now, my hero of the week is Nigel Farage. We've mentioned him a few times on the show. Basically, for keeping his cool and handling very, very well indeed this clash with YouTuber influencer Nella Rose in, well, various different clashes in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Let's play a little clip of that exchange that went out on last night's show.
But this is what I was saying to you.
Apparently you're anti-immigrants.
Who told you that?
Oh, the internet.
Oh, well, there we are, then. It must be true. It must be true.
It must be.
It must be true.
OK, but then why don't black people like you?
You'd be amazed they do.
So everyone hates you for no reason? Well, not that everyone hates you. That was so bad. But, like, sorry,
you can disagree with somebody, but to chuck around accusations the way that they've been chucked around is grossly unfair. Anti-immigrant, right? No. All I've said is we cannot go on with the numbers coming to Britain that are coming. Do you know why?
I'm one of the numbers!
Oh, right. So that's it, then.
Well, that was the exchange that went on. It went on rather longer than that. And the main issue, I think, that Nigel Farage had when we went to the to talk to the producer, you know, they had a little chat directly to the camera, was that, you know, she wasn't listening to what he said. But this allegation, this sort of, you're anti-immigrant, you're anti-black, people hate you. Why does everyone hate you? Where'd you get that information from? The internet.
Yeah. Look, a lot of people do have that view of him. And like he said, well, why have you formed this opinion of me? And I think one of the reasons why he probably wanted to do I'm a Celebrity was to try and change that perception of him, to humanise him. Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, I think he's going to use this as an opportunity to become a bit more mainstream.
Yeah. Well, there's talk about him coming back, possibly to politics, maybe standing for election again, whether that's with his old party, Reform UK, with Rich Tyson, whether that is, you know, under the Conservatives. He was at a Tory party conference, was he not? And frankly, received one of the biggest warm welcomes that most people, you know, got there.
I just think in the times we live where we're all so siloed and it's very easy to just talk to people that agree with you, to actually have someone who really disagrees with you and maybe, you know, has some very negative things to say about you, we should actually come together more and we should be able to hash these things out. I mean, I just look at the influence of social media now. It amazes me how deep into echo chambers people are. People are really operating with a different set of facts for one issue. And in very different realities. I mean, like, some people absolutely love Nigel Farage and think he's amazing. And then on the other side of it, I mean, he's just like this absolute folk villain.
And they're caricaturing. And again, this is what ties in with, you know, why you end up with people like Geert Wilders winning the Dutch election in the Netherlands. Because you know, people don't feel they're being listened to. And if you just simply said that anyone who says, maybe we need to talk about this policy, maybe this policy isn't working for the majority of British people, whether it's, you know, being, you know, anti-EU, and again, anti-EU, or is it pro-British sovereignty and believing in Britain and believing in being global Britain, you know, or is it nasty anti-migrant, or is it pro-British people and indeed recent migrants and people worrying about where they're going to live, whether a child's going to be able to buy a house, whether they're going to be able to get a GP appointment or get their kid into a decent school. And these things are always couched in the most negative ways. Whereas, you know, the people who are against people like Nigel Farage, well, they're all really nice people, aren't they? And by definition, you know, Nella Rose must be a nice person. She's a young woman. She must be nice. Whereas actually she was spouting hate.
Well, you see a lot of the fracturing and the fragmenting and, like you say, the caricatures, because if you just have this perception of someone and it's never challenged in any way, I mean, you actually see them talking as human beings, you know, Nigel Farage as the person, rather than maybe, you know, just a few headlines that you see occasionally in your social media feed. That's going to change your view of things. But I think we have a lot of that now. I mean, even with Geert Wilders in the Dutch election, he hasn't won a majority. I think that the election is very...
biggest party.
It's very fragmented. Everything is very fragmented.
Absolutely. Well, talk about fragmented. Certainly been fragmented when we've seen that the COVID inquiry. We've been showing you some pictures, actually, live from the inquiry where we are actually seeing, you know, more so-called experts over the last few days being facing questioning at the COVID inquiry. But my villain of the week this week is, well, you probably don't even know his name, wouldn't recognise his face, Hugo Keith-Casey. He's the lead counsel to the COVID inquiry. Why? Well, because some of the questioning that's been going on. Let's have a little watch and listen of Sir Jonathan Van Tam and what he was asked at the COVID inquiry yesterday. Oh, we haven't got that clip. I was told we did have that clip. Have we not got that? Well, OK. Well, anyway, the usual thing. We had more of what we've been hearing, which is this sort of emotive, this feeling stuff. You know, him talking about how his family had faced threats as a result of what they were, he was saying in the COVID during lockdown periods. We had this also from Chris Whitty as well. Now, it's terrible. No one should face threats for doing their job. I'm furious at a lot of the decisions they had. I would never dream of making threats about these people. However, so much of the questioning we've seen from this man who is being paid by you and me, being paid by us, the taxpayer, asked to ask questions and to get to the bottom of why we locked down, whether it was the right decision, what was behind the decision-making process, and that's those are the modules they're doing right now. Most of that has been about, you know, tittle-tattle and feelings. In fact, I think we have got that clip right now. Let's have a little listen to what Jonathan Van Tam had to say.
I might have expected that if a crisis happened, this was, you know, my responsibility to bear that kind of workload. I did not expect my family to be threatened with having their throats cut. I did not expect the police to have to say, will you move out in the middle of the night, well, in the middle of the evening, will you move out for a few days while we look at this and potentially make some arrests? You know, we didn't move out because of the cat, as it happened. We didn't want to leave the cat.
Now, that's very awful. I mean, it's terrible that should have happened, Candice. However, what on earth has that got to do, as terrible as it is, get the police involved, absolutely. What on earth has that got to do with what was the decision-making process to steal away our civil liberties, to lock people down, to trash our economy, break our NHS by basically turning it off for a year, ruin our children's education, ruin the mental health of the country? What on earth has that got to do with anything?
No, but I don't think we'll get anything like that from the inquiry. I mean, I've almost given up on it. And I think, you know, people very prominent lockdown skeptics like Carl Hennigan, like Jonathan Sumption have said it's barely in the terms of reference of the inquiry. I mean, I think for them, it's just such an almost disrespectable view to have questioned lockdown.
Indeed.
Why would you even...
Gupta, the author of the Great Barrington Declaration, I mean, they're completely mischaracterising what was, you know, you couldn't read what was in the Great Barrington. It's on paper, completely mischaracterising it. This is just we'll just let old people die. That wasn't, I mean, it was about protecting old people, but you didn't need to protect people like you and me or our kids because we weren't at high risk and we were able to make those decisions. And again, it was about voluntary protection, not forcing it. But again, it's been tittle-tattle, it's been emotions, and and things going unchallenged, allowing people to say, repeatedly this week, the experts have said, well, of course, you eat out to help out. No one asked us about it. And obviously this, you know, of course I would feel that this, and would expect it, that this would have increased infections and hospital admissions. And they've all said this. And the Casey, each time, Hugo Keith-Casey said, well, yes, of course. Oh, thank you so much for your time. You're an amazing expert. The data, the official figures show there was no increase in infections or hospital admissions as a result of Eat Out to Help Out. Full stop. There wasn't. So why are people spouting feelings when the entire sodding point of the inquiry is to look at the actual facts?
No,
we're not going to learn anything.
No, we'll never get that. I mean, it was frightening to me the way that actual experts like Carl Hennigan, Jonathan Sumption, Sunetra Gupta were made out to be some kind of just like dodgy grifters. I mean, like overnight, these people suddenly just, you know, became targets of so much hate just for disagreeing with the status quo. It was actually a very frightening time. I mean, it taught me a lot about how very quickly a consensus can form. And when people start to question it, how they can just be pushed to the margins.
Absolutely, and vilified in this extraordinary way. Well, I mean, again, I'm not trying to vilify anyone, I'm calling them a villain, but yeah, you are my villain of the week. Hugo Keith-Casey, you're being paid by my taxes and everyone else's. Do your job properly, because you really are not. I know you're looking very lovely and you're probably having some lovely long lunches on the public sector ticket, but seriously, do your job properly.